Hello, you wonderful Magic players out there, and welcome to my first Decktech video. In this video, I wanted to show off a bit of a project that I'm still working on. This is a free-to-play account. All the coins and everything that I've just earned from the daily quests, and I wanted to show this deck to uh, first to show off the deck. I think it's a sweet deck, but also to show off the concept that I've been talking about. That when I'm building this deck, as you can see, it uses only a single rare, and I was actually really lucky to draw this in a booster pack, in an M19 booster pack, in one of the earliest packs that I got. Um, but except for that single rare, it actually uses two rares. It uses a search for Ascand as well, but this I got for free with the Game Awards promo code. Except for those two rares, all the rares are actually in the lands. I'm using 4 Water Graves. I'm working towards a full playset of Steam Vents, a full playset of Dragon Skull Summit, and even a full playset of Drowned Catacomb. But it takes some time. It takes some time when you're a free-to-play account. So, what's the idea behind this deck? The idea behind this deck is to, simply mill your opponent, or at least remove the most important threat for your opponent, so that your small dorks are able to deal with them. We have a lot of discard. We have Pilfering Imp, which can hit basically anything in your opponent's hand. We have Divest also in the one slot, which gets rid of those. A lot of you can almost think of this as another set of cast downs, because against many decks, especially against aggressive decks, I just use this to get rid of one of the creatures in their hand so that they can't tempo out early. And against things like Drake decks or things like that, it works great as well. Couple this with the Kite Sail Freebooter, which can get rid of, which is kind of a nightmare for control decks or decks which have a lot of non-creature spells. This is a really solid card, I think. And the Freebooter even works, I think, against a lot of aggro decks. Against like Boros, it gets rid of the 4 mana +1/+1 crate to attackers, and also it gets rid of History of Benali. It's a lot of it's like a tempo killer against a lot of decks. Burglarat, of course, my favorite, my hero in the common slot that I mentioned in the mono black video. Really like this card, and it has really delivered in the games that I've played so far. Single Search for Ascanta. I think this is one of the strongest cards in standard right now. There's a lot of strong standard cards, but I think this will be played even in some older formats like Modern and maybe Legacy as well. I think this is a really strong card. Cast Down is not the card I maybe wanted to play. Like I wanted to play the green black removal. Unfortunately, that requires me to have another set of 8 extra lands to be able to run that removal. But maybe in time, when I have all the shock lands and check lands, I'll be able to run that card as well. I run a single Thought Erasure. That's something like a lot of these cards you can play around with. Like, it's not set in stone exactly what you run. The core of this deck, I think, is have a lot of discard, have a sword to equip your your very small creatures, and then finish off with a Nicol Bolas or an Eldest Reborn as your finishers. Yeah, about the Thought Erasure. The Thought Erasure is there. I started off with 4 Thought Erasures, and then I just went down and down and into more Divests and more Pilfering Imps, because I wanted more creatures for my Sword of Valoron to work well. And also I felt like I really didn't need the Thought Erasures. Also started off more kind of Demir-like with a what's it called? disinformation campaign kind of style of deck. But now that the surveil is not as useful as it were, I might even cut this last thought erasure for another freebooter. Not sure. Plague Mirror is another great card. I started out without Plague Mirrors, and then I included one. I thought that maybe I need something against token strategies with this deck, because except everything here is like spot removal, so I need something to handle tokens. Then I just included another and another, and the more I included, the better my games went. So I included more of them. Sinister Sabotage. I started off with 4, and then I've gone down and down and down and down. Now I'm down to 2, and I think I've settled on 2 now. The reason that you want a little bit of counter spells is that when you often get your opponent down to 0 cards with this deck, because almost every card in this deck, removes a card from your opponent. But when that opponent is in top deck mode, you want something to be able to counter his play. It's not necessary, but it's often a really good thing to have. Then the Sword of Valorum. This is the best, I think, equipment right now. It produces a creature every time you attack, so if you just get a single attack in, like, you can just keep, even if your creatures get removed with spot removal, you can just keep, re-equipping this to a creature, re-equipping, and it's a lot of power, when you equip this. You equip it for 3 mana, and you get +2/+0 vigilance, which is actually relevant. Knight doesn't matter really in this deck, but getting that 2/2 attacker with you means that even if you put this on something like a burglar rat or something, you're presenting 5 damage in the first turn, and then you're increasing that by 2 every turn. So you can finish off your opponent really fast, even with your very, very small creatures. Nickel Bolas. I think this is the reason I wanted to play this deck. I really love this card. I really love that this has the flip ability, that you can flip into a Planeswalker. In most games, you're not going to use this ability. You're not going to get to 7 mana, and if you do, you probably would have won, even if you didn't flip this. So it's a bit of a win more kind of strategy. But even for a 4/4 which gets rid of a card, even that in itself is really, really nice. Of course, it's legendary, so I think a lot of people will only run like 1 or 2 of these. But I really love this card, and if your opponent doesn't deal with this, then you can't have it flipped, so he probably will, and then you just drop your next drop your next Bolas and your next Bolas and your next Bolas. What's your opponent gonna do? Can't do anything. Eldest Reborn. Of course, you get these with the Game Awards promo code. So I got all the 4-pack here for free, and I started off with fewer Eldest Reborn, and then I just went up and up and up and up, and now I have 4. It's such a good answer to all the other 5 drops or 6 drops in the current meta game. It counters all the planeswalkers. What I'm trying to say. Planeswalkers like Vivian Reed, both the Jeskai, what's called the Ral is it? Rav is it? I don't remember. And Tesseret. No, what is it called? Teferi. Teferi. Rav is it? I think it's called. What more? Yeah, also the hexproof guy, which I also always forget the name of, counters that as well. So I just really like this in the 5 slot. It's such a dream crusher for your opponent. Whenever he gets to his 5-drop, you drop the 5-drop that counters his 5-drop, and yeah. I really like this deck. So in the next video, I'm going to take this deck through a couple of games, and we're going to see it in action. So until then, bye bye.